Hi, today I'm with Ben Cronin, who's Managing Director of AML Pal. And over to you, Ben. What do you do and for how long?
Thanks, Kevin. So AML Pal is a solution that we've created for accountants, solicitors, estate agents in UK and Ireland that helps them with their anti-money laundering obligations. So it's a portal or a platform where they can log in and manage essentially their clients, their onboarding of their clients through a life cycle that includes onboarding, ID&V checks, PEPs and sanctions screening, and that essentially allows them to adhere to the rules and the regs and capture it all in one place or one port. That's the essence of the service.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Knowing your customers is essential these days with so many different things going. It's always been important, I suppose, but even more so, I imagine. And for how long have you been doing that, Ben?
So I set up back in 2007. I set up a business called GBR Direct, which ultimately became a company called Kicker. And Kicker was an AML solution, continues to be an AML solution that is primarily consumed by banks and financial institutions. What we did with Kicker was we connected with all the company houses across the globe and put them into one portal and one API that could be consumed by banks and financial institutions in particular. It was very much a product that was focused on the larger financial institutions, which had real international presence. What Kicker provided was just ease of access to company information across the globe. So when we first started Kicker, we had 12 countries in our network. Over the following, I suppose, 10 years, we built that network to be over 200 registries globally. And that was consumed or is consumed by the likes of Bank of Ireland, Bloomberg, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, UBS, a lot of big international banks consume that service. And that was a particular product that was very suited to the bigger financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
With that came, I suppose, the complication of dealing with big financial institutions is that the life cycle or the sales cycle is very long and convoluted. And what I wanted to do when I finished Kicker, and I finished Kicker in early 2020, I wanted to create a product that was more suitable for the SME market and micro market, where you could essentially sign up a customer in a matter of minutes, as opposed to trying to onboard a customer, a bank, which could take 12, 18 months easily. So this was another AML solution, but very much focused on the SME market.
SME. Okay, fantastic. And what makes you stand out from your competition?
Well, at the moment, what we've tried to achieve is a portal that is built for SMEs. It's priced at a price point that is good value and seen as good value. What we've built is wizards that help facilitate people that have no training, that have an obligation that may be new to them. And through wizards, we help them onboard their customers appropriately. So it could be a small accountancy firm in Cork, for example, that might only have 5 staff. They're not the same as banks. They don't have a legal team necessarily. They don't have an anti-money laundering officer or a compliance officer. So what we've done is we've created a wizard that helps them when they log in. We guide them through the process of onboarding a customer. And that customer might be a company or that customer might be a natural person. But we just facilitate the onboarding, and through the wizard, we tell them exactly what they need to get. We get it we get the data as much as we can for them, but really it's about them doing it in one place so that when they're audited, they can press a button and see are they audit ready, or they can just create a report that you can give to an auditor. And that's kind of the essence of what we're trying to do is have a very, very tight ring-fenced solution that's all about managing your AML.
Fantastic. And what's your? I'm sure you've had loads, but what's your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
Well, my biggest learning from Kicker, and something that I tried to kind of deal with, particularly with this newer product, was, and I see this a lot with startups, and I work a lot with startups. Our office is in Art Labs and in WIT in Waterford, and it's a kind of a research hub. So there's a lot of startups go through there, and I interact a lot with startups there. I have a relationship with Enterprise Ireland, and I've been involved in meeting and seeing startups in action. And the one lesson really that, or the one issue that a lot of startups have, is that they don't do enough marketing in a general sense. A lot of startups will really focus on product.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've done in the past, particularly in the early days, we never had the budget for marketing to really understand our messaging, who we're targeting. Marketing can be kind of nebulous, and it can be slow to see results. And I think when you're a startup, when you're starting a business, there's always budget constraints, and marketing can sometimes be left until later in the journey. Whereas I believe now that marketing is all important at the start, because if you're not selling it properly, or if you're not selling it properly to the right person with the right messaging, then you're really behind. Well, you're behind from the beginning. So that for me was something I really wanted to kind of focus on when I started AML Pal. And we're still a small company, but our first 2 hires were 2 marketing people, because we really wanted to, even before we had a product, we wanted to understand the buyer persona, who we're selling to, how do we sell it to them, and get a lot of that done before we started creating the product.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know it. Well, once it was taught to me, when they ask me what I'm selling, it can be a sort of a difficult question to answer if you don't get all of that right. It's not coaching that I sell, but I sell helping people make more money. That they may or may not believe that, but at least they'll ask me, well, how do you do that? And but yeah, I couldn't agree more. Understanding, what does your customer get? What do they get from whatever your product or service is? So how do you see your business developing over the next 5 years?
So I suppose in terms of, our target market, as I said, is accountants, legal, estate agents, but in a general sense, it's all about obliged entities. So when you talk about the regs or the regulations that come out of, say, the EU and the SEC or the FCA in the UK, obliged entities is quite a large term, but it captures financial services, it captures banks, of course, but also insurance. So it's a massive market. In the next 5 years, our plan is we're focused right now with our kind of latest launch. We're focused very much on Ireland, and we're focused on accountants.
Okay.
The plan is we're about to launch in the UK in the next 3 months, which is obviously a much bigger market. But over 5 years, then it's Ireland, UK, and then the USA.
Wow.
And based on we're targeting accountancy, legal, and estate agents to begin with, but it's much broader further you go to UK and the USA, obviously. So that's the plan in a sense for 5 years. The thing about the USA is the legislation is we're kind of waiting for legislation to be pushed through that aligns the US legislation more with what we see in Europe. And when that happens, then it's a real opportunity for us. And that's a massive opportunity, as you can imagine.
Wow, I mean, it's a gigantic market, of course. Yeah, fantastic. Well, you're well positioned at the moment. Yeah. So, what's the latest news about your business, or anything happening in particular in your business at the moment?
Well, I alluded to it there. Now we're just ramping up our I suppose our rollout for the UK into the UK market. So that's a project that's on my desk right now. So
okay,
we launched AML Pal to accountants in only December of last year.
Right.
So we're now about to kind of replicate what we did in Ireland across the USA. So we're focused on the various accountancy bodies in particular. We focus on ACCA and the Institute of Chartered Accountants and those equivalent bodies in the UK. We're, in terms of campaigns, we very much focus on LinkedIn to focus specifically on the accountancy market, and that's I suppose the big kind of push for the next 3 months is to establish how we're going to really attack the UK market with partners or just with what we would call friendlies that our accountants have become advocates for us. So it's something we've done in Ireland. We're trying to replicate that in the UK as well.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. And what are the biggest issues you've overcome, or biggest challenges you've had?
Well, I think with startups, I mean, funding is funding is always front and center with startups, and obviously I still feel that we're in startup mode. We've been able to, I suppose, fundraise internally thus far, and we're quite secure in our funding. We've also got funding. We're part of the Enterprise Ireland HBSU program, so we've got additional funding from Enterprise Ireland that has essentially given us the runway for us to roll out I suppose the service and the product over the next 18 months. So that's generally the problem is always comes down to funding, and we're happy that we've got that. Fantastic. That runway now for the next couple of months, which we're delighted with.
Fantastic. So what is most inspiring to you today? What do you find most inspiring?
I read somewhere, I don't know who said it, but and I paraphrase it, was that if you're with your team in a boardroom and you're looking around the room and everybody is smarter than you are, you've done a good job. This is a truism, I think. And I look at the guys that we put together. Now we are still a small company, but everybody on the team it inspires me in some way. And you've got a lot of younger guys, hard-working team, very clever. Our tech team is phenomenal. That to me is, by design, of course, I have to say, but get good people involved. You alluded to sport earlier. It's all about the team. That's 100% where I get my inspiration from, where you get guys that are thinking differently, that come up with fantastic ideas and are able to push through on those ideas. That 100% is inspiration from it.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Probably one of the biggest challenges these days, putting a team in place and getting the right people in the right place doing the right things. And what do you see as the biggest challenge or challenges facing your business?
Well, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. So the big positive for a business like us is regulation. And since going back as far as 9/11, actually, when AML became extremely important and regulators really kind of started up their game. The regs are important in driving in driving solutions like we have. But the problem I see and the challenge with that is that there can be an apathy where regulators don't regulate, or they pay lip service to the problem.
Okay.
It's the longer I'm in this business, the more cynical I get. The scale of money laundering and dirty money that's out there is staggering. You're talking about, it's close to $2 trillion a year is a problem. So you're talking about, it is an enormous problem. It is, it's not just where you think it is, it's everywhere. And whilst the directives, the EU directives in particular, are quite strong in what they say, enforcement sometimes can be slack or lax, and that is a challenge for us.
Okay.
And there's a difficulty to that. We can't because we're selling a product. We can't talk about that all the time and saying, "Oh, we're selling," because you need to do this to apply the regs. We need the regulators to say, we're going to audit appropriately. We're going to enforce the regs that are in place, and that's something that is a challenge sometimes and quite frustrating.
Right. Yeah, I can remember back in my banking days, all right, in London, I think the big news that what was it, the Abachas coming out of Nigeria, put a lot of money through London, and I'd never seemed to see what happened about that. You know, as you say, the regulation seemed to be extremely light touch. And so maybe just to finish up, what are the biggest opportunities for your industry over the next 5 years?
With USA, to be
USA.
frank, yeah, USA. So there's legislation that was knocked back called the Enablers Act, well named, and really what I wanted to do, what the Enablers Act was about, was trying to align legislation in the US with what is done in Europe. The European legislation is called Anti-Money Laundering Directives, of which there are 6 now, and the US is seen as a bit of a light touch and a bit of a, particularly in the property here, particularly in New York, for example, particularly a couple associated with Delaware, and there's a couple of states around the US that are very slack in terms of anonymous companies buying property, which is wholesale. So there was a bipartisan act pushed or brought to the Senate, and it was knocked back in December. But there are flavors of it coming back again, so they're going to do something, we think, in the next 9 months, next 12 months in the US, which will maybe not be as strong as it is in the EU, but it will definitely go in the right direction for a service like ours. Our service can be localized really easily. We just change it to suit American legislation. A lot of the same things are services and data points are the same. We know how to navigate the data points across the US because my background from Kicker. But so that is the big opportunity. You're talking about 100x the market size of Ireland.
Wow, fantastic.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, listen, Ben, it's been great talking to you today. Fantastic, some interesting insights in there, and stuff I didn't know about, which is another benefit of these things. I learn from every interview. So listen, that was great talking to you.
Thank you very much, Kevin.